Hello, welcome. Good to be with you all. Sorry I missed you last week, and sorry for some of those cancellations. Yeah. And also, I'd like to say I am sorry for letting you down, for not being perfect, for dropping the ball, for being human. Recently there's been, a couple of people who've given me some pretty fair criticism, and I just want to acknowledge that, I do my best. I show up, I do my best. I try to be pretty consistent, but there's things that I fail at. And so I apologize for that. And I especially apologize if you've been emailing me, especially this last month. I've been swamped, and I was struggling with some physical health stuff. And also then I traveled for 10 days. So anyways, truly from my heart to yours, I apologize for letting you down. If I did. Okay, let's see here. So I'd like us to start off tonight just by acknowledging how wild life can be. Just how absolutely wild and crazy it can be. And sometimes with so much coming at us from so many different directions, we can get really lost and confused by the thoughts and the emotions that come through our mind, come through our body. And this is why it's important to be deeply grounded, deeply rooted on this path. I had this funny experience of yesterday. I was swimming in the ocean and just having just such a magnificent time. Swimming in just this beautiful Pacific Ocean. And then today, as I drove home and I came into Colorado, all of a sudden I came up over, like a little, what shall we call it? Just came up, well, let's just call it a little hill. I just came up over this little hill into this big, massive valley. As soon as I came up over the hill, I was driving across this brown and red sandstone desert for 12 hours. And then I came over this hill, and all of a sudden, everything was white. Just like giant snow-capped mountains, just fields of snow. And my heart, my body just sunk in this massive contraction of, oh boy, now it's winter. It's winter again for me. So yesterday I was in, I'd like to call it like summertime. It's like perfect 70 degrees and swimming in the Pacific. And then today, freezing and, shoveling snow and this and that. And it just goes to show so much can come at us. Just like a little shift in weather, a shift in environment is enough for, part of our body consciousness to go into a state of gloom or doom. Now, I have countless friends who are the opposite, they hate the warm weather, they hate hot weather, and they just can't wait for it to snow. They can't wait to go get out in the snow and to play. And like our local ski resort, all month, actually, one of my friends, he's the guy who makes the snow pre-season when they don't have any snow. And so he's been blowing snow all month, and it's been so warm all month, and the snow that he's been blowing hasn't been sticking. And so now, with all this new snow that we have in Colorado, he can rest assured that people can come and ski on his mountain and have a good time, and he doesn't have to sweat the weather. But it's a wild thing. We humans, we can make ourselves sick, literally, with our own thinking. We can make ourselves sick. And so it's important. Like I caught myself as I was having this massive contraction, when all of a sudden, I saw the snow, and, I had on these teeny little shoes. I wasn't wearing my snow boots, and, And I felt the bottoms of my feet just start to get so cold, and my legs get cold because I was kind of just wearing my summertime clothes as I was driving into Colorado. And I had to stop myself and take a deep breath and actually look and see, my God, the world is so beautiful, to see the beauty of reality, to get out of my conditioned thoughts. I've associated snow with a lot of work, because it tends to mean a lot of snow shoveling for us, and being like frigid and heavy, wearing all those jackets and everything. And I had to stop myself and see reality, see the beauty of reality, see that this massive desert that I just drove across had all of a sudden turned white. And it's a pure white, with a big blue sky above, and giant mountains just kind of coming up out of the desert. And I realized, oh yeah, this is beautiful too. Like, this is okay too. This isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. And see, sometimes our mind tricks us into thinking that life is so bad, that life is so terrible. And so the thing I wanted to speak about tonight is having a balanced perspective on the spiritual path, a balancing of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Because sometimes when we are in the divine feminine, if we get like too stuck in the divine feminine, sometimes we can get stuck in this kind of thought process, or this view. Everything is about how I feel. Everything is about what I'm thinking and what I'm experiencing. Everything is about me and my suffering. And that's not really the divine feminine. That's more the egoic feminine. Is about me and my feelings, my thoughts, my inward reality. And on the path of the divine feminine, we meet all that with love. And all of us, we can kind of scan our body and we can acknowledge, my heart's been traumatized, my body's been traumatized, my mind has been traumatized. Like, everything's been traumatized. And to respond to this trauma, we invite forth this quality of the divine feminine, this great compassionate love that says, I will sit here with you. I will hold space for you. I will be with you forever and love you and compassionately embrace you with this warmth and this gentleness, this sweetness. Come and sit here in my lap and let me hold you and rub your back until, the tears dry up. This is kind of the energy of the divine feminine, the energy of Mary, this energy of this great love, embracing the great wound of being human, the great trauma of being human, the great difficulty and suffering of being human. And of course, the divine feminine is a massive aspect of this path. Like, what kind of spirituality is it if there's not love, if there's not compassion? Like, right here at the source, at the root, the very essence of our path is love and compassion, holding space, being gentle and kind and tender-hearted. But of course, if we're all just wounded egos all the time, stuck in our wounded victim nature, and always just comforting ourselves, attending to our needs, checking in with our trauma, making sure we're trauma informed, making sure all of our words are soft and sensitive and politically correct. It's like, my God, we're not going to get too far. We're not going to get too far in this world. We have to balance this out with the divine masculine. The divine masculine is this quality of strength. It's this willingness to go forward on our own, to go forward in a fearless way, to face the things that are within us, and not to be moved by trauma, not to be moved by our thoughts, not to be so easily offended in the world. We must have strength here on planet Earth. We must have a faith that is unshakable, unshakable, unwavering, unmoving. We must be willing to sit with things, even when they don't feel good. Now, I can tell you, when I was with my teacher, he offended me so many times, countless times. Sometimes it would be on a daily, if not a weekly basis. He offended me. He let me down. He hurt my feelings. He didn't agree with my ego. He didn't always comfort me. Sometimes he comforted me so much. And other times, he left me hanging. I can remember one time when I went and I visited Alma. It was at one of her big gatherings in Santa Fe. And there was a small group of us that were going to take part in like helping out, like volunteering with the puja. And each of us, we got to come up before Amma, and she would like help to light our light or something and give us like a blessing on our forehead. And there was like 8 or 9 people that came before me. And each one of them, she looked into their eyes, she like grabbed their cheeks. Maybe she gave them a kiss on their forehead. And, she really gave them words of encouragement. And I thought to myself, like, this is when I was really young, I'm really spiritual. She's going to give me some real special treatment. It's like, and y'all know what's coming. And I went up there. As soon as I went up there, she lit my lamp and just like looked the other way and started yelling at someone, like totally ignored me. And I was like, oh, okay, that's it. Like, that's what I get. But did I walk away? Did I take it personally? Oh my God, I'm so hurt. I'm traumatized. She didn't see me for the brilliance that I am. She didn't honor me. No, I didn't go into any of that. I just said, huh. I said, what's my job? My job is to go light the lights, light the lamps, for the other people in the puja. My job is not to sit here and to worry and to wallow in my hurt feelings. Now, of course, like each side, like the divine feminine and the divine masculine, has its own shadow. So the divine masculine, the shadow of this, is people who tend to totally ignore ourselves, totally ignore our psychology, totally just walk this fiercely independent path. I don't need a teacher. I don't need support. I don't need therapy. I don't need anyone. And again, this really isn't divine masculine. This is the shadow side of the human masculine. Just like crying and wallowing all the time is the shadow side of the divine feminine, and being so hypersensitive that we can't leave the house. We can't do anything because everything in this world traumatizes us. And so we see on these two ends of the spectrum, we have these great shadows. The shadow of like being totally hysterical, totally offended all the time, always hurt. Everyone around us, no one understands us, no one sees us, everyone's out to get us, everyone's hurting us, harming us, everyone doesn't acknowledge, doesn't see us fully, and this and that, like that kind of worldview. And on the shadow side of the divine masculine, or the human masculine, is being cold and being alone, being stern, being forceful, being so utterly willful that we miss the beauty and the divinity that life is showering upon us in every moment. What I've learned over the years on the path is it's not one or the other. It's not meditating 10 hours a day on the road to enlightenment. And it's not, just being in therapy forever and wallowing about how I'm feeling and I need to process with you and I need to tell you how you offended me last Christmas and again on the 4th of July, and then you didn't send me a birthday card. And I feel like you're kind of passive aggressive with me. It's the willingness on this spiritual path to step into the great qualities of the divine feminine, the qualities of love and compassion and tenderness and sensitivity, and the willingness to balance this with an absolute strength, an absolute fearlessness, an absolute trust and faith. After Amma ignored me at the puja, did I go back the next year? Certainly. Of course I did. I went back for many years, probably, another decade more until COVID happened and she stopped traveling. It's like, what are we going to do on the path if someone hurts our feelings? If someone offends us? Are we going to be courageous and open our heart again and continue to walk forward? Continuing to sit and meditate. Continuing to have faith in the tradition, the teacher, the lineage? Or do we give up? Some people I've met on the path, they just go from teacher to teacher. And sometimes they have like a 6-month run. Sometimes they have a 12-month run. Sometimes they have a 2.5-year run. Now, I found this within my own self with committed relationships. I could make it pretty good for 1.5 years. And after 1.5 years, something would just happen where I'd start to lose interest, or I'd stop trying. I would do something to sabotage the relationship. And I noticed that it was just a habit of ego. And I had, maybe 4 committed relationships that made it to about 1.5 years. And I realized, oh, there's something that goes on within me, within the programming of my psyche, where after 1.5 years, I give up. And when I saw that, something woke up in me. And I just asked a question: what would happen if I stayed a little bit longer? What would happen if I opened my heart a little more fully during this difficulty, during this dry period? What would happen? What would happen? I'm going to ask many of you the same question. Like maybe some of you are bored with me or frustrated or going from teacher to teacher, never going that deep. But I'll ask you in this moment, what would happen if you opened a little bit more fully? And I'm not necessarily asking you to believe in me, but rather I'm asking you to believe more fully in yourself. because that's what the spiritual path is about. It's about you discovering you. And in order to discover you, you have to discover all of you. And all of us have the divine masculine within us. And of course, we all have the divine feminine. And so if we just take a moment, if we close our eyes and we take a moment, and we ask, where am I out of balance? And I invite you to be deeply honest. Because some of us, sometimes we pick a team, like I'm on the divine feminine team. Others, I'm on the divine masculine team. But I want you to just feel around inside. And I want you to be honest about your spiritual path and where you're at and how it's going. And ask, what could you use more of? Could you use a greater dose of love, of compassion, sweetness, gentleness, sensitivity? Or could you use a greater spoonful of strength, of power, of fearlessness, of dedication, divine will? And so as you look around inside and you allow yourself just to notice, where are there deficiencies? Where am I lacking? Because in truth, you're not lacking anywhere. In truth, in your absolute nature, you're completely whole. Absolutely whole and complete. But of course, in our human form, sometimes we're not so fully connected to the divine masculine. Sometimes we believe too much in the victim. We don't believe enough in the victor, the Buddha inside. And so I ask you to look again and see, is there a way that the energies of the divine masculine could more fully support the energies of the divine feminine? Is there a way, a greater sense of strength, power, or faith could support you opening more fully in a tender, a compassionate, a vulnerable way? And just noticing what comes forward. What comes forward? Is there a way you could invite the divine masculine, qualities of strength, righteousness, truth, maybe it's truthfulness, honesty, integrity, more fully forward within yourself? Is there a way that this awakening of the divine masculine could support more fully the blossoming of your heart? And then, of course, I want us to ask, is there a way which the divine feminine this great unconditional love, a sense of beauty, a sense of joy, could more fully be welcomed into the masculine aspect of your path. Because the divine masculine become a little bit dry or stale or dead or numb or aloof. Is there any spiritual bypassing that's going on within your psyche, within your experience, that could use a greater sense of unconditional love and embrace, softness, tenderness? And as we sit here, and just a little bit longer, I invite you to see these two qualities of strength and love beginning to be more intertwined, almost like they're dissolving into each other. Strength and love. Power. Strength, nobility. Mixing with a sense of compassion, sense of tenderness, sense of willingness to meet every aspect of your being. So inviting a great balance throughout the body. It's both strength and love. Radiance, divine fire. Sense of luminosity. Flowing throughout the physicality of the body. Blessing and harmonizing the emotional nature. Blessing and harmonizing the mind. Inviting clarity and love. Honesty and vulnerability. And so you can open your eyes if you like, just acknowledging what a wild thing it is to be human. For most of us, we have so many different minds within us. And sometimes, without knowing it, we become ruled by one of our minds. Whether it's the mind of fear, like that can rule us. And for some of us in the Sangha, that's like the primary thing that rules us. I can remember I went to a teacher once and he basically asked, which God do you bow before? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean, which God? There's only one God, right? And he went on to say, well, most people bow before the God of fear. some people, especially in the last couple of years, bow before the God of being offended. Of being offended. You know, when I was at the beach the other day, we saw this wondrous, marvelous sight. There was an old man walking on the beach, and he might have been 86 years old. He was a tall, skinny, I want to be a little graphic here, shriveled up old fella. And he wore 2 articles of clothing. One of them was a red, everyone knows what kind of red hat it is, a red Make America Great Again hat. And then, for those of you meditating, I want you to get this image in your mind. He wore a micro string bikini, and he was just walking around, just almost completely naked. My mother was there, and she was just blown away. And it's, you know, it's California. So in California, you know, you can get away with a lot. You can get away with a lot. And it was very graphic, very wild. I was, you know, the story was headed in a direction, but since then I've lost that place in the description. But it was just amazing to see this specimen of human being. He was just quite a character, and he would just walk up and down the beach. We were at the beach all week. I went surfing every day and just had such a great time. But he walked back and forth up and down the beach, you know, just about as naked as anyone could ever be. And it's just a wild thing to be a human. It's a wild thing because sometimes we're driven by these forces. Now, what is the force that drives us to walk naked up and down a beach? I don't know. What's the force that makes us want to be political with our hat? You know, I don't know. What's the force that makes us want to sabotage love? Sabotage a job or a career opportunity, or the willingness to listen to your heart. Like so many of you, like, are right on the edge of making this big leap into something much, much greater. And then that little voice comes forward that says, no, nope, maybe I should just keep doing what I'm doing. I couldn't do that. No one will love me. No one will appreciate me. The world won't support me. Like sometimes we just listen to the wrong voice. We think we're listening to our intuition, but we are guided by a voice of negativity, a voice of unconscious confusion. Now, if we give ourselves permission to step into the divine masculine and manifest a quality of clarity, we might begin to see that we are sabotaging. We're sabotaging our spiritual path. We're sabotaging our life. That we are bowing before the God of fear, instead of bowing before the God of truth. And so it's important, so utterly important, to be deeply connected to this sense of clarity, that we can investigate what are these motives that are moving, what are these forces, these things Freud called drives. What are the things that are driving me to do what I do? You know, the other night, it's like 2 or 3 nights ago, maybe it's just 2 nights ago, we would go out every night as a family. We'd walk down to the cliffs. It's right over by Yogananda's ashram in Encinitas. And we'd go there at sunset to see, just the glory, the glory of God in the form of the sun and the ocean. And we walked, when we were coming home from the sunset, there was a family and they had this enormous house. It was like a $10 million home there in California. And they were kind of out in the street. They had one of these houses that had like this big, I'd like to call it a garage door, but it wasn't, like a big door that would just open up. So it looked like that their family kitchen table was just like out in nature. It was one of these kind of like outdoors houses. I don't know if I'm describing it correctly, but they were all dressed to the T, and they were ridiculously wealthy. And they were kind of standing in the sidewalk, mostly blocking the sidewalk. So when we were walking down the street, we kind of had to get out of the way a little bit just to make room for them. And they had no interest of sharing, no interest of moving. They had these big, glasses of wine, like these real giant glasses of wine, the perfect hair and the perfect Italian leather boots, and probably $400 jeans and this and that, and the Maseratis out in the street, and like the whole, they had the whole situation. And as I was walking by, we had Doodles and Buster with us, and like normally when people see Doodles and Buster, they just light up and they're so happy because they're like such sweet little dogs. And I say hi to just about anyone who's walking by in the street. And it was just interesting because these people, they ignored us. They almost were like looking down upon us like we were peasants. It's like, what is that drive? What is that about? When we're concerned about status, my teenage daughter, she uses a word. She says, well, when you're one of the pores. And I was like, I'd never heard that word before, but the pores. And so we were the pores. And the elites were looking down upon us. And it was almost like they were looking through us, like we didn't exist as human beings. These are the very energies that make it possible for us to continue to have wars here on planet Earth, when you can look at another human and just to look through them and not acknowledge their divinity, not see their goodness, not see the fellow humanness, the fellow sense of unity. It's quite a bizarre experience because it's where I live in Durango. It's a little bit of a rougher town, and it's nice, but there's not that many people that are going to just look through me like I don't exist as a human being. And for them to do that with my mother and with Doodles and Buster, it was something. It was just really something to see, like what goes on in the consciousness of a human being. But when we have a sense of clarity, a sense of mindfulness, and we mix in a big dose of heart, a big dose of love and compassion, it's very difficult to walk this path, walk in this world in an unconscious way. It's very difficult when we have an open mind, a clear-seeing mind, when we can be deeply honest and deeply loving. When we have a depth of clarity and a depth of love, we see these unconscious forces within us, just like when I came into the snow today and I saw these unconscious force of contraction just come over my body. I looked at it and I had to smile, say, okay, to bring this body back into reality. And many of us, we can do this when we face fear, like when fear arises in our consciousness and our body starts to hyperventilate or sweat or freak out, or maybe it just contracts very, ever so subtly. And we can ask ourselves a question: do I need to contract? Like if somebody hurts our feelings, do I need to contract? This was something I learned with my teacher, because he used to, he would just pummel me with unconditional love. And then later in the day, he would pummel me with insults. And he would do this like again and again, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the thing that I had is I had faith, one, in my soul. And two, I had faith in the fact that he loved me. I had faith in my soul. And by that, I mean I had faith in my willingness to withstand when somebody kicked sand in my eyes. I knew I was big enough to receive it. And I didn't have to shut down. I didn't have to close down. I didn't have to run away. I didn't have to run away. And he insulted me, constantly berated me as a way of deeply loving me. And for like the part of us that is, quote unquote, trauma informed, oh, that doesn't jive. That doesn't make sense. That's not right. Like we all have to be soft and gentle with our tones and always be sweet and coddle ourselves, coddle each other and this and that. But my teacher, he believed in my strength, and so he had to challenge my strength. And he would challenge it again and again and again. And he also believed in my heart. And so he would fill my heart with love and compliments and lift me up and hold me and hold space for me and be there for me. And then the next moment, he wouldn't be there for me. And sometimes we look at this and we say, oh, that's a test. You're being tested. It is a way of being tested, of course. But in the same way, like, if you see someone work with steel, like when they're cooking it in the fire, the furnace, and then they're just pounding that steel and beating it, pounding it and beating it, and flipping it over and pounding the other side and beating it and beating it and beating it until it turns into hardened steel. And the reason the blacksmith can do that, because he has faith. He has faith in the steel. He has faith in it. Doesn't have much faith in aluminum, but he has faith in steel. This is one of the things that many of us forget on this path. Sometimes we become very loving, very sensitive, very focused on our healing, our trauma, and we forget that there is something here that outlives everything, that there is something here that is indestructible, that there is something here that does not need sensitivity. Something here that will outlive all of life. And when we have faith in this, when we have faith in our strength, It doesn't mean we give up on love. It means we can actually love deeper and more fully and more completely. It's one of the gifts that comes when you have a child. I can say this, that there's many times on the path of parenting, when your children just drive you crazy, drive you bonkers. It's just like you're ready just to leave them. You're ready to abandon them. But of course you can't. You're stuck with them. And the beautiful thing about being stuck with something is it forces you to grow. It forces you to learn how to love more deeply and fully. And for some of us, we're stuck with a partner, or maybe we have someone in our family who's mentally ill, and it's just like, oh my God, like they challenge me so much. They test our boundaries in every way. We have an overbearing mother or father, and sometimes it's just like we spend too much time together. We just drive each other nuts. Like this happens. This happens on the path. But when there's this strength of love, when there's a strength of love, we can weather the storms. We had this funny experience the other day. We went to the ocean. I think it was maybe it's Thanksgiving Day, maybe it's the day before or after. I can't remember. But anyways, we went to the ocean, and I wanted to drive down the beach because there was a better surf spot. And so I packed everyone in the van, and where we were at our house, it was just perfect bluebird sky and day. And we just drove like maybe a mile and a half down the beach. And, I got everyone out, and it was coldy. The wind was whipping. So it was cold. The wind was whipping. It was just gray clouds. And all the ladies were just complaining. They were just like, this is not right. This is not. I was just like, just let me go jump in the ocean just real quick. Let me just jump in real quick. Let me catch a couple waves, and then we can get out of here. Or y'all can just leave me here and, go shopping or go get something to eat and come pick me up in an hour or so. And they decided to stay. And, I got out in the water. And in 20 minutes, the clouds had parted. And the day was perfect again. The day was perfect. It's like any time in life, if we give ourselves a little bit of time and a little bit of space with whatever it is we're feeling, whether it's fear, sadness, anger, whether we're struggling with, a food addiction or a substance addiction, whatever it is, if you give it a little bit of time and space, we begin to find that things change, things shift. Maybe all of a sudden we have the energy to face what's here. Maybe there's a quality of love that comes into the room. Maybe someone shows up and is able to support us. Maybe the thing just dissolves, like whatever it was that we were struggling with. We can no longer find it again. And this is one of those qualities of the divine masculine, is giving things time. The quality of the divine feminine is giving it our full presence. And if we can do this, if we can give something a little time and space, and simultaneously give it our full presence, you might find that this thing shifts very quickly. And other times we find, I'm going to be sitting here for a long, long time. And this is one of the gifts of the Buddhist lineage. Someone came to the Kundalini group last week, and they said, I've sat for, can't remember what they said, 1,000 hours or 10,000 hours. And it's like, when you've sat for 10,000 hours in meditation, is a great strength of will that comes online. We have this energy that's like a mountain. And we see that everything, every single thing will pass. Every single thing will pass. And it's one of my, this could be a gift or it could be a failure as a teacher. And I received so many emails in the last 2 weeks from people really struggling. A couple of people with, telling me about suicidal thoughts and just really wanting to jump off a cliff. And, I often get, 2 or 3 of those a week. And one of the things that I have is I have great faith that God is with you and that this too shall pass. One of the things I don't have so much is time to respond to every email. So sometimes there's just, not sometimes, a lot of times there's emails that get lost, that don't get responded to. I'd say like most of them. And it's just unfortunate that my schedule's so busy that I don't have the time and space to respond to them. But there's always this faith that God is with whoever sent the message. That God is here. Sometimes God is with us, putting intense pressure on our life, making things so utterly difficult, so utterly painful. And we can't see it. We just see it from a place of trauma, saying this isn't right. No one's there for me. Sometimes there's not supposed to be someone there for us. Sometimes your teacher is supposed to fail you. Your partner is supposed to fail you. Your children, your boss, your lover, your dog. Normally dogs are pretty consistent. Sometimes they even fail us. Normally the dog is probably maybe the most consistent out of any of them. But sometimes life is supposed to fail us. So that we can give up on reaching outward and learn to reach deeply inward. And boy, is this a tough teaching. I can remember a time in my life when all my kids turned against me, my wife turned against me, my friends turned against me, my best friend turned against me, my teacher turned against me, my mother turned against me. And I was just left alone in a pool of just like, everyone was betraying me. It's so interesting. And so I started to study betrayal. So what is the spiritual truth behind betrayal? Like, what am I meant to learn here? Like the ego might say, you're meant to learn that your friends are no good and that you're a victim and everyone's wrong or I'm wrong. But that wasn't the lesson, of course. The lesson was for me to trust myself and to walk forward on the path alone with an open heart. And as I chose to do this, even though I did it with like gritted teeth, like it was very difficult because that place in my mind just wanted to blame and continue to argue with all the people who abandoned me. But as I chose to go forward and continue to open my heart, I discovered this immeasurable strength, the strength of the soul. and a love and a faith that could not be squashed, a light that could not be put out. And so this is my invitation to you. If you find yourself judging or blaming the other, if you find yourself feeling betrayed or let down by life or by God, instead of going with the normal story of our egoic nature, which is, it's all their fault and they're bad, and they're evil and they're wrong, and whatever it is. Or poor me, no one loves me, no one cares, you're not holding space, you're not loving me perfectly. What if we hold space for ourselves? What if we hear ourselves? What if we reach deep within and find a love, an okayness, that has no end? An okayness that has no end. And when we look out at the sunset, oftentimes we discover this okayness, a great okayness that has no end. One of the things about surfing is when you look out at the ocean and you see people surfing, you see them gliding along the water, and it looks so graceful and so beautiful, and they go splash at the end of the wave, and you get this illusion of what it's like to surf, what it's like to be in the ocean. But when you stand out in that ocean, when you're walking your board out, you might not find that you're just gliding along the water. You might find you're getting tossed and turned by 4 different currents going 4 different ways, pushing, pulling you this way and that way. But when you step way back from the ocean and you see the full picture, the wildness of the ocean, the power of the ocean giving life, the ocean taking life. And you see both the shark and the dolphin. You see the pelican, eating, gobbling up the little fish. And we see the big picture, the fullness of time, the fullness of space. There's this awakened vision that overcomes us. And we see that all is well. Birth, suffering, death, birth, suffering, death, calm skies, blue skies, full moon skies. That's what it is right now. Full moon sky, winter snowy sky, warm tropical hurricane sky. When we step back far enough, we see that it's all okay. It's always all been okay. It's only that voice in our mind that's busy projecting. You're wrong. I don't like this. You need to be different. I need to be different. Nobody loves me. I'm the best. I'm the worst. we're all going to die, whatever it is. Our mind projects all these crazy things. And most of us are totally unaware that our mind and our unconscious nature is constantly projecting a crazy reality, a ludicrous reality, onto something that is quite divine. A ludicrous reality is often projected on something that is absolutely divine. The path of spiritual awakening is about waking up from the dream, waking up from the trance, waking up from our projections and saying, no, I'm not going to sabotage another relationship. I'm not going to sabotage another relationship because I think somebody did something that hurt my feelings. There's times when it's important not to listen to your feelings. Instead, step back and see the truth. And sometimes the truth is the person said something mean or hurtful because they are in pain and it has nothing to do with us. Sometimes the person said something because they come from a different perspective and it has nothing to do with us. They weren't meaning to hurt our feelings. It was us projecting onto them that they should be just like us. They need to agree with my political beliefs. They need to believe with my spiritual beliefs. They need to be able to read my mind and know how I am. Like, how many couples do that? They get mad at each other for not reading each other's minds. It's like, my Lord, what ludicrous reality is that? I can remember the first time I went to couples therapy. The person had to tell my former wife, Craig cannot read your mind. It's like he can't read your mind. He doesn't know what you're thinking. And I'll say this just as a guy, like, very confused about what goes on in the mind of a woman. And many women say the same thing, very confused about what goes on in the mind of a man, like, no idea. We're different creatures. But when we project that you need to be different than how you are, I need you to love me this way, but I'm not going to tell you which way it is. And I'm going to tell you I'm okay, even though I'm not okay. But I'm going to tell you I'm okay and I'm fine, and that I'm simultaneously demanding that you hold space for me, even though I didn't tell you I need space to be held for us. Us humans are crazy with so many conflicting forces and voices. And it's important that we are willing to step back with clarity and love and see our projections, see our woundedness, see our confusion, see what we are doing constantly to the world around us with our expectations and our assumptions and our needs. Always on the edge of being offended about something. And taking a deep breath and realizing, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay if you are human. And I'm okay if I am human. And I'm going to love what's here within me. And I'm going to have the strength and the courage to forgive you for being where you are. Forgiving you for being where you are, and forgiving myself for being where I am. And so this great question of can we go forward in this world? Can we go forward with a strong back and an open heart? Can we go forward being fully human and fully divine? Can we forgive ourselves, and can we forgive another for getting confused from time to time? Can we open more fully and have faith in ourselves? Can we have faith in love? Can we have faith in this path? And so anyways, it's good to be with you all. If anyone has a question, I could do a question if anyone has one. I want to look in the chat too, because it looks like there was something there in the chat. Okay, we're all okay. So tentatively, let's look at the at New Year's, that New Year's weekend for a retreat. That's a big maybe, like a really big maybe. And if not, sometime in January. Okay, so let's close down our eyes and let us invite a great spiritual strength, a great divine love and peace to flow down into our bodies, to flow down into our forms. Blessing our minds, blessing our emotional natures, blessing our bodies, inviting our hearts to light up with great joy, great love. Inviting this love to shine forth all over the earth, blessing those struggling with darkness, those in pain, blessing those in war. May the conflict in Israel and Palestine be blessed with the highest love and reconciliation. May peace triumph. May these same forces of love and reconciliation shine forth over Ukraine, over Russia, over the United States and Iran, and Jordan, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon. May this world be blessed, the entirety of this world. May we all grow together in a perfect love, a harmony and a unity. May peace prevail now and forevermore. So good to be with you all. I'm going to keep up with all the groups, so no changes in the schedule. We'll see y'all Wednesday. So much love to each of you. Good night, everyone. Good to be with you.